You think only wealthy people should?
At the very top, it's hard to tax,
But let me be sure I understand what you're
Sure.
saying. All right, let's suppose that's not just an average American. Let's suppose that's an American. What do you define as rich?
In the minimum income tax, it's $100 million of wealth or more.
Okay, so you think if you're really wealthy, you should have to pay a tax on your unrealized gain?
I think you should have to partially prepay if you're liquid, if you have liquidity to pay.
Do you think somebody? Why can't you economists answer questions? Should any American have to pay tax on unrealized gain? Why can't you just answer me?
Yes, there are some who should.
Who?
This is one of the greatest beatdowns of bureaucratic elitism in Senate history. Senator Kennedy brought his Louisiana common sense to Washington, D.C. to expose the radical core of the progressive left's tax agenda: class warfare. They want to tax you on money you haven't even earned yet, money that is only on paper. They are literally trying to rewrite the American dream into a nightmare of punishing success. Watch as Kennedy forces these smug professors to admit their policy is irrational and drives wealth out of our states. This is the fight for the soul of the American economy. Smash that like button, subscribe to Talking GOP for the unfiltered truth, and share this video.
Why do you and Dr. Yeagan, why do y'all want to punish wealthy people?
I think I can speak for both of us that we're not interested in punishing anyone. We're interested in having
interested in taxing the hell out of them more than anybody else.
I think
what makes you think that making tax policy on the basis of class or status makes sense? Well, let me be a little more precise. Do you think appreciation of assets that are not sold, unrealized gain, should be taxed?
I think you should have to prepay tax on it that will eventually be due at sale, gift, or bequest.
What do you mean prepay the tax?
Sure. So if I have $5 billion of unrealized capital gains, I have $5 billion of taxable income, and I'm currently paying $1.5 billion on that. So that's a 15% overall tax rate.
Well, let's don't complicate this. I want to understand
Sure.
what you're saying. Let's suppose an American owns a piece of real estate they inherited from their father or their mother. And it was, when they inherited it, they got a step up in basis, it's worth $100,000. And all of a sudden the interstate came through. And the property is now worth $1 million if they sell it. But they don't plan to sell it. They're going to leave it to the kids. Do you think that Americans should have to pay tax on the unrealized gain, the increase in value?
In general, no. At that level of wealth, for example, housing.
You think only wealthy people should?
At the very top, it's hard to tax,
But let me be sure I understand what you're saying. All right, let's suppose that's not just an average American. Let's suppose that's an American. What do you define as rich?
In the minimum income tax, it's $100 million of wealth or more.
Okay, so you think if you're really wealthy, you should have to pay a tax on your unrealized gain?
I think you should have to partially prepay if you're liquid, if you have liquidity to pay.
Do you think somebody? Why can't you economists answer questions? Should any American have to pay tax on unrealized gain? Why can't you just answer me?
Yes, there are some who should.
Who?
The ultra wealthy who have liquidity should prepay some tax.
What if they don't have liquidity?
They should not have to pay, and they will owe at sale, bequest, or gift.
So if you have cash, you ought to have to pay, but if you don't have to pay?
To prepay. I have in my testimony, there are examples of how this works so that you can preserve incentives to build a new company, take it public.
Okay. Tell me, if you were king for a day and you could rewrite America's tax code, tell me the 3 changes you would make.
Number one, I would equalize labor and capital tax burdens at the top. There are a couple ways of doing that. The billionaire minimum income tax is one that would move in that direction. I won't rehash those details. Senator Johnson actually talked about a corporate tax integration type.
What's number two?
Sure. Number two, part of closing the labor and capital disparity is closing the Gingrich-Edwards loophole. And number three is ending abuse of trusts. So the estate tax has been eviscerated. Many of those, you take assets that you know are worth a lot. Right now, they're purportedly worth a little because you haven't taken your company public. You put them into a trust, it explodes.
Do you support a wealth tax? Do you know what I mean by wealth tax?
I do know what you mean by wealth tax. The billionaire minimum income tax taxes income, and that, I think, is the way forward in that space.
I think it's a very American phenomena that throughout the history of the income tax, we have valued progressivity, and our current income tax does that. We used to rely on things like tariffs to raise revenue. Tariffs are regressive consumption taxes that disproportionately hurt the poor. Like, we believe in this country that those with the greater ability to pay should pay more of the burden. And that's part of what a healthy capitalism does. It enables people to gain from things like trade and technological change and business innovation, and to contribute a little more to the fiscal system when they're very successful in doing so. And I think that that's a very legitimate way to structure the tax system.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Why do you think so many wealthy people are leaving New York City?
New York City is, an incredible city of innovation, immigration, entrepreneurship.
Yeah, but why are so many wealthy people leaving?
I think there are big advantages to living near centers of entrepreneurial activity, and we see that on the West.
You think they're leaving to be nearer to centers of entrepreneurial activity, do you?
Well, I don't think there are a lot of people, fleeing New York City. That New York City has.
Sure they are. There are thousands. I mean, there have been study after study after study. Why are so many wealthy people leaving New York City?
I think there's an enormous number of wealthy people who are in New York City and continue.
But why are so many leaving?
I can't speak to why particular people
I can
leave.
tell you why. It's taxes. You know that as well as I do. It's taxes.
I think if you look at the economic...
Some of it's crime, but most of it is taxes.
Well,
people vote with their feet. The same reason that people are leaving California and moving to Austin.
If you look at California, it's one of the most successful economies in the world, and it continues to be so. It attracts people.
But they're losing people.
I don't think it's in any danger of decline, nor is New York City. And these are very vibrant places.
I don't think we're going to ever agree.
Reasons. Yeah.
I don't think we're going to ever agree.
Senator Kennedy was armed with a simple premise. Taxes should be on realized income, not on wishes and dreams. But these elitist academics are pushing a billionaire tax that targets the unrealized value of your assets. What does that mean? It means that the house you inherited from your mother goes up in value. They want to tax you on it before you sell it. They want to tax you on cash you don't have. When Kennedy cornered them with a basic question, why do you want to punish the wealthy? They immediately retreated into academic talking points about progressivity. Kennedy wasn't having it. He proved their tax schemes don't work. Dr. McBride, the voice of reason in the room, confirmed that Europe tried this kind of wealth tax, and it only resulted in wealth fleeing the country. The most damning moment? Kennedy got one of the proponents to admit that it is a rational economic move for wealthy people to flee high-tax states like New York for low-tax states like Florida. That is the basic law of supply and demand. Prices matter. Their policies are driving capital, jobs, and opportunity out of America. Kennedy's final statement nails it. They believe government spends $1 better than the American people. We believe the people know best. This exchange is mandatory viewing for every taxpayer in America.